Well, just a little while earlier, I spoke to Civil Aviation Minister Ajit Singh for his take on this controversy, and he had some pretty interesting things to say. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for joining us on Left, Right and Centre tonight. You've called this strike by the pilots of Air India illegal today. You've also acted pretty strongly by sacking 10 of them and de-recognizing the union as well. What happens next?
What happens next? See, the point is that Air India has been in big trouble for some time now. They haven't paid their pilots. They have a huge amount of outstanding with the airport authority, with oil companies. Now, government has given a huge amount of money, 30,000 crores, over next 8 years to make them profitable. And we have set up many milestones in that. They have to meet the equipment usage standards, the turnaround time, the yield, the on-time performance. We have set all those standards. So now, and also remember that when Indian Airlines and Air India merged, they have a lot of problems. Yes, I recognize that they have some, grievances because their pay scales were different. Their seniority, how it is determined, is different. Their promotion times in different Indian Airlines, Air India pilots were different. And that's why this committee was set up, Justice Dharmadhikari. And all these issues that they are raising will be discussed with them. But Dharmadhikari report has come out with a report how to have a same pay scales, how to protect their seniorities. See, let's also recognize it that they are trained. Indian Airlines and Air India pilots are trained on different kind of planes.
That's right. But Mr. Singh, is there any sign that this particular strike is going to be called off soon? And if it's not, are you ready to sack more pilots?
Listen, the first thing that they have to realize is that it's their airline. Their progress, their jobs depend if airline does well. If they want to tip it over the brink, they can do it very easily. So first thing they have to decide that, what they want to do. The questions they have raised about their career progress and all that, as I was talking to you, I was mentioning, that can be discussed when we are going to implement this Dharmadhikari report. And let's also face it, on both sides there are problems. But you have to come up with one airline now instead of two airlines. So everybody has to discuss it and find a way out.
Right, but are you saying, my question is, are you saying that the government will not tolerate a strike in order to talk to these pilots about their concerns and will sack them if that's what it's going to take?
If they want to shut down Air India, they can do it very easily. That's what I just mentioned. And they have to decide what they want to do. It's not only Air India pilots, all employees should feel they have a stake in Air India's success.
Mr. Singh, you also spoke about the massive bailout that Air India has just got very recently. You mentioned it yourself. And, weeks after that, a strike like this takes place, inconveniencing so many passengers. There's a growing feeling that why should taxpayer money be spent to keep this airline afloat, especially when its own employees seem to have utter disregard for public money?
See, that's all right, but if you consider if we completely shut down Air India immediately, there will be other repercussions. Of course, that vacuum can be filled, but it will take time, and in the meanwhile, the passengers will pay. The airfares will shoot up. Suddenly they have 17% of the passenger traffic today. You suddenly can't fill up that gap.
But let me ask you the long-term question, which is, why do we need a national carrier at all? Is it time we ask ourselves these questions? Why shouldn't Air India be shut down? Can the government sustain running this airline anymore?
There's a lot of merit in what you are saying. You are right. The time of national carriers is gone. If you see all over the world, only some nations, very small nations have so-called national carriers now. And I do agree with you. But even if you want to disinvest, first you have to bring it to that level so that anybody will be interested in investing in Air India.
I'm actually quite surprised by your answer. I didn't expect you to say this, but are you then saying that it actually may not be wise for the government to run Air India in the long run and that it's time to start thinking of exiting?
I believe that government cannot run, should not and cannot run any industry, especially service industry. Because you see, in service industry, customer is king. And the government employees, although Air India, a lot of employees are not Government of India employees, but the whole management is. So that attitude is different.
Well, I have to say that those are pretty interesting, blunt views. I don't think I've heard them from a civil aviation minister before in this country, Mr. Singh. Finally, though, as we wrap up, let me ask you, do you see this current standoff ending soon, or do you think it could take a little time?
I think it shall be resolved. I'm sure the pilots will realize that there are other ways to redress their grievances. And the strike is illegal to begin with, because see, for a strike also they have to give notice. You can't suddenly, disrupt the operations and then expect discussions will continue.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.